Well, what a phenomenal time to be alive here on Spotlight, and I sit down with the incredible Ken Price, the CEO of Blake Mill.
Every chapter leaves a mark.
Most clothing brands today don't fail because of bad product.
The curious child, the determined learner,
They fail because nobody cares they exist.
the runner, the creator, the entrepreneur, the family man.
We've seen average brands scale massively while better products just disappear.
Years passed, responsibilities grew,
Because this industry isn't about fashion anymore. It's about attention. And if your brand doesn't stand out today, it doesn't exist.
and somewhere along the way, he became the person others look up to. Ken Price.
Ken, welcome to the show. Would you like to introduce us? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, John. Pleasure to be here. I'm Ken. I'm the CEO and founder of Blake Mill. We're a men's fashion brand. Started out like everybody else, working a regular job, finished university, and just got a little bit fed up with doing what everybody else was doing. So thought I would take a few risks and started up a data company and then got into the fashion brand.
Talking about risks, what sort of risks and what sort of pressure lands when you start in a brand new sector, in a brand new industry?
Well, the first thing is you start earning no income, right? And the money that you do have, you start pouring it into your business as well as all of your time, which means less family time. So it's basically all downside at the beginning. You feel free, but you're constrained by money as well as by your time and not being able to spend as much of it with your family as you'd like to.
And how do you manage that? What processes, what do you do to offset that?
Honestly, John, it changes over time. The second time around, I think I'm a lot better at managing it. But the first time around, in all honesty, it is stress, it's tears, it's just lost sleep. It's pretty brutal.
What made you want to go into that in particular?
Naivety, I suspect, right? So I worked in fintech for 25 years and just wanted to try something new. A friend of mine had set this brand up and asked me to help him grow it. So I said, that sounds interesting. Let's see what we can do.
Wow.
And it is a tough space, I have to be honest.
What's been the biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge is having worked in a business-to-business environment is really getting into a consumer-level marketing mindset. And that's been fun, but it's been a real challenge. But the good news is I relate to most of my customers because I'm right smack dab.
So Ken, we've touched on it before, but you had a job and a good job. What's the mindset shift between going from a 9 to 5 to 24/7?
Well, so I guess first of all, I was a software salesman. I studied engineering, then studied business and finance, went to work for this enterprise risk management software company. And it was great. We were selling software around the world, but it was a little challenging. Some of our sales cycles were like 6 years long. One bank was just taking forever, right? So it becomes a little soul destroying.
Yeah.
The main thing for me though was the people I was working for never seemed to treat their customers very well, and I just wanted to try doing something on my own. My dad was an entrepreneur. He built swimming pools for a living. So my colleague and I decided we would try setting up our own company, and it was largely around getting some freedom and self-determination, but it comes at a cost.
What are those costs?
I think the first thing was just all of your time and all of your focus has to go into the business. And it's really brutal, right? Because I have young kids. I remember taking them to roller hockey and just being in tears because I was so stressed out with the money and the time. And then the money is the other aspect of it, right? I was paying credit cards with credit cards borrowing money from relatives. And you're just doing it on a dream, right? So it was stressful.
And where does the motivation come from to go from, because it's really easy to be 9 to 5, but that switch to go, I'm going to go and build something myself. Where does that drive come from within yourself?
The truth is fear. Fear of waking up in the same position in 10 years' time. I really had a great job, but I wanted to do something myself. And the other element to it for me was after floating the idea of setting up my own company with my family, my friends, and everybody shook their head and said, no, don't waste your time. It's never going to work. It's just not going to happen. And there's nothing that incentivizes me more than defying what people think I can or can't do.
Yeah, it's a powerful statement, isn't it? And learn how to use that negative in a positive way, I think that's a skill of an entrepreneur. Would you agree?
Well, I think so, and it's really actually quite delightful when you prove them wrong. I have to say, right?
Yeah.
So, like when you're going into a fighting ring, I suppose, right?
Don't panic in the clinch. Absolutely, it's a beautiful thing to prove people wrong. Maybe don't come too obsessed by it. But
no. But it's something that always is in the back of your mind, right?
Yeah.
And it just makes it rewarding because it's not all about money. It's about being successful and making a difference.
Ken, it's become extremely trendy to become an entrepreneur, a business owner. The big podcasters, the big personalities, but that's not the reality, is it? Starting a business is a scary thing, and we've got to take the romanticism out of it a little bit, and we've got to be a little bit honest. How have you managed that transitional piece?
Well, first, let's set the record straight. It is brutal setting up your own business. Everybody looks at a Mark Zuckerberg or some of these other big entrepreneurs and think they had it easy. But most startups take 7 to 10 years to actually start making money or getting anywhere. Mm-hmm. For me, I had an office in London with my business partner. I was sleeping on the floor of that office in a basement, listening to the Ferraris whiz by first thing in the morning. That woke me up, right? And it was just brutal for the first 3-4 years. Wow. So you've got to be prepared to schlep through some really challenging times.
Ken, it can go bad and it does go bad. How bad has it gone for you in the past?
Well, I've worked in a few startup environments, and one that really stung was a process where we raised $7 million for the business, but we spent $14 million. And my math is good enough to know that doesn't work. And I had made quite a sizable investment in my own income, my own funds went into that $7 million into the business, or into the $14 million, excuse me. So yeah, it was tough.
After you lose that sort of investment, the doubt must come from not just yourself but from others. What have you dealt with in that respect?
Just, I guess, rebellion, I suppose. I think once you become an entrepreneur, it becomes very difficult to go back to being an employee. And I had done a little bit of that. I worked as a consultant for some of the big banks for a couple of months, and I just couldn't do it, lining up for the elevator every morning. And it was just, so I had to go back, and that's what I did. And that's when I took my left turn into a men's fashion brand.
Wow, great tenacity. Can you believe that most startups shouldn't raise funding? Where does that belief come from?
Because it becomes a status symbol and becomes the reason for actually being in business, and it's not, right? Mm-hmm. You're raising money for particular initiatives, for particular growth objectives, but fundraising has become, in many cases, the goal for a lot of startups. That's their sort of trophy. And realistically, if you don't have a clear business plan and evidence upon that you're going to be using this funding for, then you shouldn't be raising money. You've got to build a business that generates a profit at the end of the day. There are always some exceptions, right? And sometimes you have to build a huge data center if you're if you're OpenAI or so forth. But most cases, put the fundraising, line that up with the business goals that you've gotten lined up.
So some people want the chicken instead of the egg.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I get it. So another thing I read about you, Ken, is that you also invest in businesses. With what you've just said, is that not a contrary of a belief?
Have you caught me out here? I don't think so. I mean, investment can amplify growth, and it can also amplify failure. It can amplify mistakes. So it can make a bad business worse faster, or a good business grow more quickly as well. And I've made some bad investments, and I've made a couple of quite lucrative ones actually as well. And that's just the art of the whole process, really.
Brilliant. Ken, Blake Mill is a premium men's fashion brand. Where does that come in your story?
So it was a complete fluke, unexpected, which sometimes are the best things in life. We kicked this business off in 2018, really properly. And I guess the biggest thing that we had to focus on was the positioning of the brand and the niche that we're really targeting. And we've deviated from that in the past, and we paid seriously for it. Wow. So for us, it's all about who is your ideal customer and what do they want. And for us, it's generally a guy over 50, sometimes 40, sometimes their sons as well. And somebody who's really achieved enough in life where they can wear something a bit flash and really just say, I can wear whatever I want, right? So, and some of these customers have bought 70 shirts, and a lot of their wives buy shirts for them as well. So, but it's always focusing on making a statement, and that's what our products tend to do.
And on making a statement, we have a saying, look the part, feel the part. Why do you think it's important that high-performing men dress a certain way?
Well, it's always a certain segment of high-performing men. You're always going to get guys that are going to be wearing a white shirt or a black shirt. This is a plain shirt with a little bit of accent. But I think when you want to make an impact and you want somebody to remember you, then it's what you say and it's also how you look, right? So I think having something that's impactful. I was at a networking event yesterday, actually, and you just get people looking at you sometimes a bit strangely, but it's a conversation starter, and it saves you time. You just get a conversation going, and you meet more people, and it's just, you're making an impact.
Brilliant.
All right, John, we've been talking about me and my background. What do you do?
Well, that's a great question. I have the privilege of working with high performance CEOs, MDs, founders of businesses. And with my background in the army, fighting, etc., I created a brand called the CEO Adventurer Limited. And I believe we all came from nature and we find peace in nature, but we can also find great challenge in nature as well. And it's getting back to that primal way of living. The mountains don't care what car you drive, what postcode you live in, what you wear on your body. They just care about the facts. So I take leaders out in the hills, in the mountains, other environments, and I ask them big, honest questions of themselves. And because it's one-to-one, there's always an honesty piece involved, and I unlock a few secrets. Well, I mean, as men, we sometimes struggle with titles. There's a lot of people now, it's become extremely trendy to call yourself a CEO, but that's a big title. And have you earned the right to be called a CEO? And if you haven't earned the right, it's going to weigh heavy on you. So whenever I meet someone and they tell me that they've got a fancy title, I'll say, CEO of what? How big's your business? Have you earned the right to call yourself that? Because if you end up in a room full of legitimate CEOs, they'll find out quickly that you're not one. So it's best not to embellish where you are and just call yourself a founder or a startup. Be honest with where you are, because we've all been a startup. We've all been small to medium to large. It's a process, and I think what we do now in society is we want to be there before we're here.
Right.
So we want a fast car before we've got a car. So I always talk to them about that honesty piece, about where are you in your life, what's your routine, what's your lifestyle, what bad habits have you got, how do we break bad habits? And sometimes it's about getting people to admit that you've got a bad habit, because we sort of okay certain behaviour. I don't drink alcohol anymore, which is my choice. But we sometimes now, there's a culture of, well, I've earned it. I've earned the right to go and get absolutely hammered. The answer to that question is no one's earned the right to get absolutely hammered. It's a choice that you're going to make. But what was if we made a different choice? What was if we chose family time instead of getting hammered? So we deep dive into that, really. And it's exciting. I've been to some of the most stunning places in the UK and all over the world as well. And nature's a humbling beast.
Yep.
Doesn't matter how much money's in your bank account, your car, your postcode. Nature will come along and say, no, that's where you really are.
Yep. I once heard a climber say the main regarding Mother Nature is that gravity is a harsh mistress.
Yeah. So, long fall and stop suddenly.
Yeah, exactly right. Good, that's really fascinating.
Yeah.
Thanks. All right, John, you've recently released a documentary. Tell us about that. It sounds exciting.
A filmmaker who's got ties into the Amazon world, and he approached me and said, I'd love to make a documentary about you, and we'll end up on Amazon Prime. Now, from a guy from a northeast council estate, that's massive. And if I achieve nothing else for the rest of my life, which I will, by the way, but if I don't, I've kind of done really well for myself. So
a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, right?
Yeah, it does, yeah. You've got to
Brilliant.
put your boots on first.
That's right. Congratulations. That's great.
Thank you very much. Ken, everyone wants to be successful, but what's the misconception about success?
I mean, the most common misconception from my experience is just the status quo. People just not asking the right questions and following what is expected of them. So go to university or college, get a 9-to-5 job, and just live your life, retire, and that's it. I think if you really want to be successful, you've got to ask more and better questions of yourself, and be prepared to break the rules.
And some people think success is this straight line that goes up, but actually it's very different, isn't it? It's filled with ups and downs. Would you agree?
100%, just like your documentary, right? I mean, it is generally, and then you might have a blip up, and then, it's just, you've got to be prepared for 90% of it to be crap, and then 10% of it you get to enjoy. It's just hard work. And as soon as you get a big success, you've got the next one to work toward, right? And you can't ride on these successes. You can build on them. Obviously, you want to keep the best of each one of them, but you just get bigger problems when you have bigger successes.
Ken, how would you like people to remember yourself and the brand that you're building, Blake Mill?
Well, I like to think of myself as resilient and adaptable, friendly and giving, but I think from a brand point of view, people ask me from my past, what are you doing building a shirt brand or a fashion brand? And we're doing more than that. During my customer events, when I'm meeting up with the guys that are wearing our product, I interview them regularly in front of camera, and they'll say, oh, I just feel so good wearing your shirt. So I'm actually selling, to a certain degree, happiness, self-expression. And a lot of my customers in their 50s and 60s, mental health is a big issue, right? I mean, there's a huge suicide rate amongst older men.
Yeah.
And not that I'm addressing that, I don't want to demean that to any extent, but we are really just trying to sell connectivity and self-expression that manifests in terms of just lifting up people's spirits and making them feel good and enabling to have conversations, because we don't have enough of those.
Fantastic. Ken, it's been fantastic speaking to you. Anyone can build a brand, but can you build a legacy? And can you build something that's going to last forever? Selling products is easy, selling lifestyle is different, and selling something that's going to last forever is even tougher. This is on Spotlight.